What was the name of that guy that played Batman? Michael, it was Michael Keaton. All right, now imagine that you are Michael Keaton. Or you could be any of the other guys who played Batman or, whatever. But you're Batman as long as the cameras are on. But when the cameras are off and the director yells cut or whatever they yell, I don't even know if they still do that or not. You're no longer Batman. Now you're just Michael Keaton in a funny looking suit. So let's imagine that things are different, that they're going to do a different kind of a movie. And what they're going to do is you're going to be Batman all the time. I mean, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Not in the studio, but in the studio, at the studio, to and from work. I mean, when you go to the grocery store, they're going to follow you around with cameras. You're Batman. And the only time you don't have to be Batman is when you're home alone, and then you can take off your costume, take off your stage makeup. Now that sounds kind of silly, right? But we got to keep in mind that effectively that is kind of like a narcissist because they have to be in costume all the time. The only time they can get out of costume is when they're by themselves and they know they're not going to be interrupted. Now, yeah, I know there are exceptions. I know there are exceptions that there comes a time when the narcissist, and you know this if you've been abused by a narcissist, that after the grooming and after the love bombing and after you have been well entrenched in their snare, that they're going to start letting their mask down and they're going to let you know that, no, I'm not Batman. I'm not 007. I'm just Sean Connery, or I'm just Michael Keaton, whoever. I'm this other person completely. I'm not Barney Fife. I'm not nuts. I'm just a normal person who's doing this for a living. So yeah, sometimes they do take their mask off, but by and large, when it comes to the public at whole, they're making a production, they're making a movie. They have to stay in character all the time, every time, and they can't let their mask slip. They can't allow any flaws because people are depending on them. The cameras are rolling all the time. All eyes are on the narcissist, and he has to keep up appearances, literally. So what is it like to be a narcissist? Well, number one, you got to be in character all the time. And believe me, these guys are characters. That is a part of being a narcissist. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think I want to do that. I don't want to be an actor all the time. Now, I don't think I'd be a good actor part of the time, which probably why I never tried. Who knows? Maybe I'd be good at it. I don't think so. But it's exhausting. Could you imagine having to be Batman 24/7? You get a few hours alone when you get home, but you go to a restaurant, you're in your Batman outfit. You go to the grocery store, you're in your Batman outfit. You go to church, you're in your Batman outfit. Go to the ball game, you're in your Batman outfit. And you got to pretend you're Batman. You can't just wear the suit and everyone kind of laughs at you. No, you got to try to convince these people you really are Batman. So you got to drive around your stupid Batmobile, right? That's the narcissist. They have to live that life. And it's kind of ridiculous, but I'm not sure they can help it. So, I wouldn't want to be in these people's shoes. Number one, I don't like Batman shoes. And number two, I don't want to be a narcissist. Number two is they are paranoid. They are living in a perpetual state of fear. So I want you to imagine that your entire life, and it depends on how old you are, but your entire life, say you're a middle-aged person, and your entire life, several decades, you have spent screwing people. I mean, hurting people, stealing from people. Some of these people, they just, they get it. You're a jerk, you're a narcissist, you're a con man or con woman, and they just pass it off as, that's who this person is. But there are other people who don't take it so lightly. There are some people who they hold grudges and they hold them for a very long time. They want retribution. They want justice. They want you hurt. They want to get you back. And the more people you hurt, the more people you have following you. That is what it's like to be a narcissist. So you constantly have to be looking over your shoulder. In fact, have you ever noticed an older narcissist, they've got rear view mirrors on their shoulders so they can see who's behind them all the time? Okay, that's not true. But, if you believe the Batman thing, you probably believe that. But truly, they are always in character, and they are always having to look over their shoulders because people are after them. And I like to tell people, look, there's absolutely positively no reason for you to try to pay back your narcissist because someone else is doing it for you. Probably there's lots of them. And the older the narcissist gets, the more people he has offended, that he has hurt, that he has scammed, that he has defrauded, or she. So the more people are after these what do you call them? Nefarious individuals. You could probably think of something worse than that. Number 3 is to be a narcissist is to have a bad reputation. And the narcissist, they're playing Batman. And at the same time, they're the Joker. Yeah, they're in reality, they are the Joker who has on a Batman outfit. Okay, I'm just making this up as I go along. But, the truth of the matter is people are aware of the fact this is a criminal. A lot of times, literally, not exaggerating, that the narcissist is a criminal. He has character flaws, extreme character flaws, has no sense of ethics whatsoever, and he's got that reputation. And all the time he's trying to pretend he's Batman, trying to pretend he has a good reputation. So the narcissist has to be a master at hiding their flaws, and often they hide themselves. In fact, once a narcissist leaves you, discards you, he wants to, or she wants to stay as far away from you as possible because who the true narcissist is. And he wants everyone to think he's Batman. He wants everyone to think he's the hero. But you know better, and a lot of other people know better. So they're constantly trying to find, this is why they move so much, by the way. They're always trying to find a new place to live. They're on the move constantly. So, eventually, all of that is going to backfire. By that I mean, the narcissist is obviously the bad guy. And then he flips the scenario, flips the story, flips the narrative. And he tries to make you appear to be the bad guy, So he is the bad guy, or she. He is the bad guy. He is the villain. But he tries to present himself as being the hero and the victim, and you are the villain. But eventually that backfires. Eventually people are going to find out, no, wait a minute, Ken didn't do all this. We know him, and we know this bad guy. Well, if they don't know him and they don't know me, they're going to believe the smear campaign. But even the most gullible people who believe that, eventually they're going to find out. The truth comes out. That, by the way, is why the truth is the narcissist's worst enemy. So what's it like to be a narcissist? Well, it's to have a horrible reputation that you constantly have to hide. Number 4 is to be a narcissist is to be addicted to ego inflation. Narcissists, and I've said this many times, they perceive themselves as having a deficit in whatever. They don't think they're good enough, don't think they're smart enough, don't think they're attractive enough. So they perceive themselves as having a deficit that they have to fill by getting supply, by getting an ego boost, an ego inflation shot from somebody else. And so they're piling all that on. Some of them really don't have a deficit, but that's the way they perceive themselves, as being lesser than everyone else. They don't like that. And so they put on their Batman suit. They put on their narcissist suit. They put on the nice guy suit. They put on the act. And they need that ego inflation because they're addicted to it. They got to have it because if they don't have it, they're going to go back to feeling horrible. They got to face the reality, or what they perceive to be the reality. Another thing that we have to say, what's it like to be a narcissist? Well, it's to have probably a few legal problems. I know a guy that I mentioned now and again that this guy had been taken to court dozens and dozens of times. If you heard me in the past, you've heard me talk about this. But legal problems, if you take a look at public records, the guy, man, he's been sued dozens of times, been prosecuted for check deception. He never pays his rent. You know, he tries to live with people who will let him live rent-free because he puts on this act of being persecuted or whatever, of being down on his luck, and a lot of times it works. It worked with me. You know, I let him live in my office for like 3 years, just how gullible I am. But then you discover this guy has a lot of legal problems because they believe rules and laws are made for everyone else. They are entitled that, the stop sign means you stop, not them. No trespassing means you don't trespass, but they could trespass. I mean, that sign's made for, for you, not for them. So they are re-offenders. So you could take these people, and sometimes they do. They go to jail, even prison. Hey, have you ever wondered why somebody would spend years in prison, sometimes decades, and as soon as they get out, they go right back to a life of crime? Well, the reason is because it's how they're hardwired. That's what I should say. The way their brain is hardwired, they can't not do that. That is called, a lot of times, people will be, they will be prosecuted and they'll have a jail sentence, but they will be let off. So the jail sentence may be suspended. Well, we would call that conditional release. We're going to let you out on the condition that you behave yourself. But if they don't behave themselves, which they don't, that is called revocation of conditional release. And next time, they don't get out. They have to serve their jail time, whatever. And I know someone who went through that, because he just can't stop scamming people. And even after he got out of jail, he went right back. The only thing he learned, the only thing jail taught him, was to be a little bit more clever in hiding his offenses. So, he doesn't have a driver's license, refuses to tell anyone his social security number. He always tries to live with somebody, not rent. So he hides, put it that way. So what's it like to be a narcissist? Is to have legal problems and constantly hiding. In most cases, there are some people who are, narcissists who are law-abiding citizens, particularly overt narcissists. But here we're talking about covert narcissists, and we call them covert for a reason, because they're in hiding. What's it like to be a narcissist? It's to be social but alone. I've mentioned this before, but narcissists typically have a lot of, quote, friends, unquote. To put that more correctly, they have people who know them, who seem to like them because they have a charisma about them. Most of them, they're very likable, very affable. So they love to have a crowd of people around them all the time. Maybe not physically, but they love to have a group of people that are always on the ready to defend themselves, who admire them, even though they think they're a little bit nuts. But yeah. But they're friendless. They don't have any close friends. They have maybe one or two people who are gullible enough to be caught in their web, which I was one of those people several times. But those aren't friends. Those are just people that they're sources for resources. So the narcissist befriended me, but I wasn't really his friend. It's that used car salesman thing. They pretend to befriend you, but they're not befriending you. They're just being friendly to you. There's a big difference. So the narcissist, he is not being your friend. He is befriending you, but it's not real. He's just being friendly to you so he can take advantage of you. So you are a source of his resources because, well, he doesn't want to get them on his own because he's entitled. And he thinks he's smart, thinks he's very savvy. That's why we call them narcissists, because they think they just all that. What's it like to be a narcissist? Well, we kind of touched on this a moment ago, but they're constantly moving. This doesn't apply to all narcissists, particularly overt narcissists or grandiose narcissists, but covert narcissists. The ones that I have known that I've been taken advantage of, they didn't live in the same place very long at all. This guy who lived in my office for 3 years, I think that's the longest he lived anywhere, as long as I've known him. In his earlier years, when he's in his 30s, 40s, middle-aged years, he would rent apartments or trailers or something, and he'd never pay his rent. So they'd evict him. So he'd go somewhere else, and he'd maybe, pay his first month's rent or whatever, and he'd live rent-free for 6 months until they evicted him. How do you know that? Well, for one, I knew the guy, but number two, court records. Public records. Eviction, 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 eviction. People would sue him. And those are the ones who bothered to sue them. Who knows how many more didn't. But they're always moving. Now, we did a video, I think last week, noticing the traits of demons and narcissists. Some people think narcissists actually are demonic. I don't get into that fight, but there are correlations in behavior as demons in the New Testament, at least, are presented. And one of the things you notice about demons is they're always moving. The theory is they were kicked out of heaven because they rebelled against God. And now they don't have a place to live, so they spend their time haunting houses or possessing people. They're always looking for a place to live. Well, that's what a narcissist does. Covert narcissist is they're always looking for a place to live. I mentioned this probably a dozen times in other videos. But one guy I knew, who I'm convinced was a full-blown narcissist, he had this weird obsession. It didn't have two nickels to rub together. He had this weird, odd obsession looking at real estate. I mean, he looked at hundreds, probably, of properties. Sometimes he would ask me to take him because he didn't have a driver's license, and he would ask other people to take him. And if you acted interested in the property he was looking at, which he could never, ever possibly buy, he'd get offended. It's kind of like he was serious about this. What is that? That is so bizarre. That is so weird. And he didn't seem to see that as weird. I mean, look, you can't buy this property. You don't have any money. You don't even have a job, for crying out loud. You bum off other people. You're a professional scamster. You're a fraudster. You're a fraudster and a scamster. That's what they do for a living. Con men, con women. But they always seem to be moving. They don't have a place to live. And part of that is because they are running from those who would try to do them harm, particularly the law. How many times they've been sued. Number 8 is kind of related to that, and most covert narcissists that I have known, with a few exceptions, are always a financial wreck. Now, I know there's some exceptions to that. I always like to use the example of Bernie Madoff. I mean, obviously, he had billions of dollars that he stole from other people. So, financial wreck, well, in a very real sense, he didn't have any money. He had other people's money, but that was okay because he lived a lavish lifestyle. But most covert narcissists that I know, they just, they broke. And the reason is because of low impulse control. That's my theory. They can't, they think maybe 2 or 3 days in the future, maybe a week or so. But they don't plan for their retirement. They don't plan on what they're going to do a year from now. That is way in the future. They don't even identify with it. So they typically very seldom have a job. Now, the exceptions are a narcissist who would have a job. Usually they're grandiose narcissists, but a covert narcissist, maybe they're good enough at masking that they can pretend to be the good guy and hold down a job. But that doesn't happen very often because to have a job means that you have a supervisor. And narcissists do not like to have anybody tell them what to do. So they typically don't have jobs. Few exceptions, but seldom doesn't happen. So they don't pay their bills, and they're constantly a financial wreck. But, that's what it's like to be a narcissist. Always to be in financial turmoil. But they can tell you all about finances. They can tell you what's wrong with your finances. They can point out to people, they say, oh, that guy can't handle money. They just don't see it. They don't see it in themselves. It's kind of like the vampire who looks in a mirror and he has no reflection. That's not quite like a narcissist because they love the reflection, but using that analogy, they don't see themselves in that light. When they look in the mirror, they see something else, not the real person, figuratively speaking. So, these people live miserable lives. This is what it's like to be a narcissist. There are 2 rectangles on the screen.
We can keep on talking if you want. I know you've gone through a lot of trouble, a lot of turmoil in your life because of these people. So let's kind of discuss it. So by clicking on one of those two rectangles, we'll keep our conversation going as long as you want. But if not, we want to thank you for stopping by and see y'all next time.